I was raised in church, but really grew up not in a relationship or understanding the relationship with Christ. My parents were faithful in taking us to church. Were there all the time, but it was really until I went to FCA camp in Estes Park, Colorado, between my junior and senior year in 1968, I believe it was, that I heard really for the first time about a relationship with Jesus Christ. That He died for our sins. He paid an unbelievable price. And the guy that really made the impact, the person that made the impact in my life, is I had an opportunity at that time to hear a man named Tom Landry, who was coaching the Dallas Cowboys at the time, share his faith. And I thought this was America's coach. This was the guy that at that time Dallas was America's team, and all of us growing up knew who he was, and everybody in sports, and he was the icon. When he shared his faith, and it was good enough for him, and the first time it really explained it in a clear, concise way that I understood it wasn't about church as much as it was about the relationship that I gave my life to Christ. And it started an incredible journey from that time on. And another turning point of my life spiritually was when my wife was in a car wreck. I was coaching at Greenwood at the time, and assistant coach there, and she was in a really bad wreck, and it almost took her life. And at that time, I realized that how precious life is, and really for the first time in my life at that point, I really threw myself in the emergency room floor and the waiting room floor and began crying out to God just to spare her life. And really miraculously, He came down and just put His hand upon her and guided her through that, and really gave a remarkable healing to her in a very short period of time. And I really began to realize again how much that God wanted to be involved in every aspect of our life, and not just Sunday and not just on a Wednesday night, but everything that we did, He wanted to be actively involved in. And my first child was born at that time, and we began to really throw ourselves in His Word the best we knew how at that time, and got involved in a church. We began a journey, spiritual journey at that time, back in, I think, around 1974 in Greenwood, Arkansas, that has just been one great journey after another great experience after another on this walk. We had just won the state championship, the school's first in the history of the school, 1983, and it was, in my mind, it was time for me to go get a head job. And just didn't work. Every door that I tried to push open got closed, and became very frustrated with it, and got out of coaching for 2 years, and felt like, well, I'll just go do something else. Went in private business with a friend of mine. In a very short period of time, 2 years, basically lost everything I had. Trying to hang on in our business, and it just turned off really bad. After 2 years, I was broke. I mean, literally broke, and had an opportunity to begin examining myself and my life again. I mean, I was doing all the things that I thought were right from a spiritual standpoint. I was involved in our church. I was teaching Sunday school. I was one of the leaders in a church, and I really had hit the rock bottom and trying to figure out why that God had allowed me to really fail, and fail miserably. And through that course of really introspection and praying and calling out to God, I began to look at myself again and see that I was doing a lot of the things that right on the surface, and most people would say, hey, you're doing the right thing, but it had become really a form of ritualism in my life. It really wasn't the heart that was leading me, and God began to reveal Himself to me again, and different things happened that if I went into all the details, it would take too long, but just miraculous things one after another, financial miracles in our lives that began to happen. And He began to show Himself to me again, and show me how much He loved me. And I was at church one Sunday, and a friend of mine was there that had just gotten hired as the head coach at Fordyce, Arkansas, and he just kind of congratulated him, and he said, hey, I got a job for you if you want it. And I said, I'll take it. And he didn't really have any idea that I was looking for a job. He said, oh, Barry, he said, it's just a junior high job in 7th grade and possibly the 9th grade. I said, I'll take it. And I went back and got in coaching, and as I threw myself in the Word and trying to listen and discern God, I decided that looking back on that decision to get out of coaching, it was all about what I wanted and my timing. And became very clear that I was trying to open the doors. I was trying to kick those doors open into head coaching ranks. And I'd made a commitment. I just felt very convinced in my heart and my spirit that it was just time to quit trying to fight that and quit trying to make those things happen myself. And I knew in my heart, the last couple of years I was at Southside, that I was becoming restless inside, and I was very patient. I didn't react too quick, but I knew there was some change going on that God was getting ready to do in our life, and I really wasn't sure what it was. I had no idea it was going to be leaving a job that I thought was the best job in the state of Arkansas, that I was very comfortable with. My surroundings and my community of Fort Smith that I grew up in, many friends from high school were still there, and yet we came to a point where I knew it was time to go. Could have stayed there comfortably probably the rest of my coaching career, but there was something just within that said it's time to go. And we came to Northwest Arkansas, which really was the last place that I'd ever thought about coming, to be quite honest with you, but God had a different plan for me, and I began to sense that this is where He wanted us to come in my spirit. In the last days that I sat, the last day I was in the office at Southside, I remember sitting there after I cleaned out all of my office, and I realized what God was doing in my life. And again, God continued to show His faithfulness to us when I let go and just put my trust and faith in Him and got content in being where He wanted me at the time and place that He wanted me to be. I think that's one of the big things that I've learned in this journey, my Christian journey, is the fact that is being in His will, not mine. And it's sometimes thinking that our will is actually God's will because we want something so bad. And there's a point in time of coming to peace with ourselves and resting in the Lord and being still and being slow and waiting. We're an impatient people, at least I am, and we want things right now. And I've learned that I don't want to say God is slow, but in our timing, He moves in a different time frame than we do. And it's getting ourselves lined up with that and resting and waiting on God. It's something that's very hard for most of us, myself included. I'm right at the front of that list. But there's something about waiting on God and actually hearing His voice and not our inner voice sometimes that is our wants and our desires. I'm Coach Barry Lunney, and I have a coach, and his name is Jesus.